Hi, I'm Joan from Paper Moon Knits. Today I'm going to be demonstrating the 1x1 alternate long tail cast on. You can use this cast on anytime you need to start with ribbing, and although I'm going to be showing you the 1x1 alternate long tail cast on, you can easily translate that to 2x2 or 2x1 or 3x3 or any variation where you're starting with alternating an alternating rib pattern. Knits and purls. So we're going to start the same way that we start with long tail, which is with a slip knot. I'm taking just make a slip knot. The working yarn is going to be at the back. That's this piece right here. That's attached to my ball of yarn. And I'm going to put it on the needle so that the working yarn is at the back and the tail is at the front. And as you know, with long tail cast on, you're going to go under your thumb yarn and over the yarn that's on your index finger. So under, over, and through. Under, over, and through. Now you can see on this that this piece of knitting, if you look very carefully, you can see that it's pretty smooth on the front, and that kind of mimics the knit stitch. But then if we turn it to the back, you can see that there are purl bumps right here. So what we want to kind of try to do here is we want to kind of make sure that we get an alternating smooth bump, smooth bump. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start again. I'm going to pull these off. And I have the same slip knot where the working yarn is at the back and the tail yarn is at the front. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you, if we start and we say that this is a knit stitch, the next stitch is a purl stitch. And we normally go underneath the thumb and then over the yarn in the back. But what we're going to do is we're going to reverse that. We're going to go all the way back here, and we're going to grab this yarn here at the back, and then we're going to go under that. So one more time, we're going to go all the way at the back. We're going to grab this yarn at the back of the index finger. We're going to pull it forward, and then we're going to go under the yarn that's at the back of the thumb, and we're going to pull it through. So if you notice now, what we're getting at the front is we're getting all those pretty purl bumps. And I'll just stop. So under the back yarn at the index finger, and then under the back yarn of the thumb, and go backwards through the loop that you made. So now if we look at that, you can see the bumps. So I'll do that a few more times. It's under the yarn at the back of the index finger, and then under the yarn at the back of the thumb, and then backwards through the loop. One more time. Under the back yarn of the index finger, under the back yarn of the thumb, and then through the loop and pull it through. So you can see those purl bumps. So now how do we get the alternating knits and purls? Okay, let's start one more time. So now if we say this is a knit stitch, we want a purl stitch next if we're doing 1x1 ribbing. So we want to go in the back, underneath the back yarn of the index finger, underneath the back yarn of the thumb, and pull it through. Now the next one is going to be a knit stitch. So we're going to do that the normal way, underneath the front yarn of the thumb, over the front yarn of the index finger, and pull it towards you. The next one, we're going to do a purl underneath the back yarn of the index finger, underneath the back yarn of the thumb and pull it through. Underneath, so now we're doing a knit, so we want it to go under the front yarn of the thumb, over the front yarn of the index finger, and pull it through. Purl is underneath the back yarn of the index finger, underneath the back yarn of the thumb, and pull it back. So I'm going to go a little bit faster so you can see. Once you start it, you can get an emotion. At the beginning, it's a little to concentrate a little bit. Now if we stop here, we can see, if you look carefully, that you have smooth and then a bump. Let me see if I can take this other needle. So smooth, bump, smooth, bump, smooth, bump, smooth, bump, smooth, bump, smooth, bump, alternating. The only thing you have to be careful with here is deciding if you're working in the round or if you're working flat. So I'll tell you what I mean. So I ended this with a knit stitch here. I can tell because it's smooth and the one before it was bumpy. If I'm working flat and I turn this piece around, then the first stitch that I have will be a purl, will be a bump. If you can see that, you can see that bump. So you just have to be careful. If you cast on and then you're working flat, when you turn it, that first stitch has to be a purl. If you need it to be a knit when you turn it, then you're going to have to work, you're gonna have to end with a purl stitch. So you go under the back loop, under the thumb loop, and then when you turn it, you can see that this stitch is the knit, that first stitch is a flat, has a flat bottom, and this one has a purl bottom. When you're working in the round though, the way you work it is the way it will appear. So if my first stitch of the first round is a knit stitch, then I'm fine with the setup as it is, because when I go to work in the round, I'm going to come back and then this is going to be a knit stitch, this is going to be a purl stitch. So it's really only when you work flat that you are going to have to pay attention to how you start your cast on and how you end it, because you want to end it with the opposite stitch that you're going to start the first row on. If the first row is supposed to be a knit stitch, you have to end it with a purl bump cast on. So I hope that helps, and I'll see you next time.